Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hello, my guest. I have with me here Dr. Anil Kumar is the Associate Director of ISTRAC in Bangalore. And I also have with me Julian Alexander Lamé, who is the Managing Director of iSpace in Europe. If you want, we can sit down and start. Perfect. Thanks so much for being here. Today, the session is touching about a very interesting point, that it is the challenges, right? We're living in a world that space is becoming more and more permeating across society. We have, let's call it the old space and the new space. We have the old players and the emerging players. There's a lot of things happening around, right? And there's a lot of challenges. And I would like to understand a little bit more of, first of all, who are you? What is your organization doing? And then we're going to jump into this question. So if you want to start with an introduction.
Good morning. So my name is Julien. I'm the CEO of iSpace Europe. iSpace is a new space company, you'd call it. We're developing a transportation service for cargo all the way to the moon. And for that, we're developing two landers. So landers are spacecrafts you put on top of a rocket to deliver cargo to the lunar surface. We're developing one in Japan, one in Denver in the US. And for my office in Luxembourg, where we're about 30 people, we're developing lunar rover technologies, so to complement the transportation to the moon with surface mobility, and also all the data analytics that goes with that, which makes then iSpace a one-stop shop for lunar exploration.
Perfect, thank you. Dr. Anil Kumar.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks to IIF and GNF for having this panel discussion, inviting me for this panel. And I am Anil Kumar. I am the Associate Director of Tracking and Commanding Network of ISRO. It is in Bangalore, India. I am from Indian Space Research Organization. Basically, you would have seen the Chandrayaan-3 landing and the rover, lander and rover deployments. And all this happened in that my center, ISTRAC, where the telecommand and tracking, telemetry, all activities are being done. And in fact, basically I am a specialist in space situational awareness and management, and a Chief General Manager for all space situational awareness activities in India. And also I am the Project Director for Netra project, which is a program to set up a network of radars and optical telescopes in India for a space object tracking. And I am an alumni of ISU as well, International Space University. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you so much. And by the way, congratulations. Everybody was amazed by the job that you guys did. I think here everybody followed that and impressive. Let me jump into that. It has been an incredible situation. Everybody's in awe. But I'm sure there has been very big challenges, right? So what are the key challenges that ISRO had to overcome to achieve that? And what do you think that was the lesson learned?
Yeah, in fact, if you consider the challenges, there are many challenges in this space. It is actually numerous, starting from any technical things, managerial policy, and taking decision making. And industry-wise, there are many challenges. Funding, and also the latency in getting the products realized. I can give one example of a technical challenge what we faced. As all of us know that Chandrayaan-2 4 years back, 2019, it has gone for a landing, and just a whisker, a very simple missing there, landed it in a hard landing, and we lost Chandrayaan-2 lander. That happened in 4 years back, and the last 4 years, the team in ISRO were working day and night, and on the aspects of technical challenges faced in Chandrayaan-2, and especially in propulsion, guidance and control, deceleration systems, like that, many challenges were there, and each and every mission trajectory design, and every aspect, each and minute aspects were discussed reviewed, find out alternative solutions. If off-nominal cases happens, if dispersion cases happen, suppose propulsion overperforms, underperforms, suppose navigation errors are accumulated, all these things, each and every aspect of the system were analyzed, reviewed thoroughly, and for each of the deviations from the nominal, alternative methods are found out, salvage options are found out, different trajectories are made. So, like that, a 4-year struggle that helped us to land in Chandrayaan 3 perfectly for a soft landing. So, it's a teamwork and dedication which led to this ISRO's success in this Chandrayaan 3.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm coming now to you, Julian. You're also aiming for the moon. You are one of the new space companies that actually it is focusing a lot of interest in intentions into the moon. New space, going to the moon. What are the challenges? Technical, but also I think that there's a paradigm that we need to change here, right? With venture capital, money raising, and making things different. So maybe we can start a little bit with the technical and then jumping out into the bigger picture that it is the overall new space challenge that we got here.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. So indeed, it's very challenging from a technical perspective to land on the moon. But I think it's important to remember also, why are we doing this? Why is iSpace one of the few companies, pure play, trying to develop a lunar transportation service? It's today, up until a month ago, the options to go to the moon were very, very few. Even today, if you're a startup wanting to develop your business on the moon, good luck finding a ride. So that's what we're about. We really believe that we're on the cusp of developing the lunar economy, and both commercial entrepreneurs and space agencies, governments can benefit from having wider options to access the lunar surface for commercial activity and for science and exploration. It's a big challenge. Yes, indeed, it's difficult technically. We had the same fate as Chandrayaan 2 earlier this year. And we're very hopeful that we'll be successful next year. So it's interesting. I think it took 4 years for Chandrayaan 3. We're trying to do it in 2 years. We're launching next year. So that's also a new space, trying to be a little faster. And we have all the telemetry from our first mission, which attempted the landing this year. We know exactly what happened, what's to fix. The very thick silver lining on this is that the only change we have to do is in the software. And that's about the easiest fix you can do on a spacecraft. We've demonstrated after 4 months of operations in space, going from Earth orbit all the way to 1.4 million kilometers away from the Earth, coming back to the moon, doing lunar orbit insertion, braking, that the spacecraft is really rock solid. So all the hardware works. We have a little tweak to make on the descent software, a lot of verification, validation. But I think that's just business as usual for engineers. So it's just a matter of time until we do this successfully. As you mentioned, there's other big components that are very challenging for a new space company. When I joined iSpace in 2017, I had my first trip to Tokyo, and I was very surprised that half of the team was actually non-engineers. I was expecting a full engineering team, but no. The team was, a finance team looking for, financing, and then a very strong business team looking for partners, looking for customers, and that is still today the case. We've had the largest Series A fundraising in Japan for a tech company, $100 million in 2017. This year, we're the first company to get listed on the stock exchange. First, deep space exploration company to do that. So we're not only, breaking barriers in terms of, technical access to the lunar surface, but working barriers in terms of putting new space exploration companies on the map for, investments, Tokyo Stock Exchange. We're breaking barriers also in terms of demonstrating that the moon is not just for space agencies. On our first mission, which launched last year, we had as many private companies as we had, public institutions. On our next mission next year, we only have private customers. no space agencies, no government. So that's what we're about. Our mindset, our goal is to develop the lunar economy, which also will benefit science and exploration. But we're there to build our Moon Valley vision, which is, a lunar economy, sustainable, self-sustainable.
Perfect. Let me just ask maybe a sensitive question. So, when you have a failure in an institutional aspect, it is easy because we have a government mandate and we kind of work into a direction. But when you're doing as a private company, especially new space, that there's a lot of load on your back, how did you manage it? How did you prove that you can kind of overcome this aspect? And how's the company surviving these turbulent times?
So I think there's two answers. There's the easy answer here, which is from the very beginning, we've always planned 2 missions. So when we did our Series A, it was already for M1, M2, because we knew we were up against a humongous challenge, very risky. So easy answer is plan for 2, and you increase your odds. I would say to send the ball back to you in terms of the question is, I think it's interesting to see who calls our first attempt a failure and who calls it a success. After the M1 landing, I received a lot of messages worldwide. And some were, oh, sorry, you guys failed, I feel bad for you. And some were, wow, what a great achievement. And there's a regional correlation there. In Europe, you tend to see what we did as a failure. In the US, other places, it's tremendous success. There's also a correlation to what you call new space, old space. Again, putting things in perspective, when I joined in 2017, so when we did our Series A, we were 20 people. In 5 years, we did a spacecraft from scratch. We didn't have any blueprint, no heritage. A spacecraft from scratch. We grew our team tenfold, from 20 people to 250 people. We raised over $200 million of financing. Any of those 3 things to do in 5 years is a huge challenge. To do all 3 together and end up with a spacecraft that's able to operate in space for 4 months, do a perfect lunar orbit insertion, and follow a trajectory that's also very innovative, I think it would be hard to not call it a success.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going now back to India. It has been a lot of support and we're having a lot of also challenges, right? How is India seeing the new space? Is it something that you guys are also seeing as a lessons learned to kind of fix a quick way of learning, or it is something that you are also kind of motivating and trying to kind of attract more?
Yeah, in fact, if India is concerned, as you may be knowing, by 3 years back, a new space policy has come up. And earlier, as you know, it is only national agency was working in the space field. And 3 years back, government has opened up the space activities to private sector. And there are a new authorization agency called InSpace has come up. And Indian Space Research Organization, still it is there. And a new agency called InSpace has come up to promote and authorize the private entities to take up in space activities. Then there is one commercial arm of Department of Space also. It is called New Space India Limited, which will be doing the commercialization of launch vehicles, satellites, space applications, data availability. All those things are taken in. So there are 3 arms now for Department of Space in under Indian government. One is ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, which are supposed to do the R&D activities and also all space exploration missions. And InSpace will be promoting all the private industries. And as you know, in the last 3 years, more than 200 startups have come up there. Many new, even launch vehicle design and manufacturing companies have come up. A lot of satellite manufacturing companies have come up. And data applications, space applications using the data available. And like that, there are a few startups and industries have come up. Even space situational awareness related things, that is generating the alerts, tracking the space objects, and setting up their own optical network. All these types have come up there. And you see, as far as ISRO is concerned, we have 3 operational launch vehicles Polar satellite launch vehicle, which has got a reliability of more than 99.9%. And we have LVM-3, which has taken this Chandrayaan-3 into orbit, GT orbit. It has not failed at all. It can take a 4.5 ton or more to GT orbit. And we have a GSLV, another GSLV version also there. But it's now, we are developing one small satellite launch vehicle, which is the need of the hour, and which can take about 500 kg satellite into low Earth orbit. These are all operational satellites are being now available with the NSIL for a commercial purpose. And as you know, many foreign agencies, outside India agencies, they have launched their satellites by these PSLV and LVM-3. Even OneWeb was 72 satellites of OneWeb were injected into orbit using 2 LVM-3 missions. So to compete with the present international scenario, so government is doing a lot of activities, and we are promoting it. And also, meantime, we are committed for sustainability of space as well. So we are part of all international guidelines like a long-term sustainability of outer space activities. And we follow UN guidelines on space debris mitigation and IADC guidelines. So all these activities taken up, and we make sure that all the private industries who are coming up in the field are handheld with available technologies, transfer of technologies, and all know-how, knowledge base were transferred to these companies. So that is why we are coping up with the present scenario on the space activities.
Perfect, thank you. It seems to be that it's also getting very congested, not only here on Air, but also up there with all these activities and everything. And I know that you are very focused into the sustainability of space and how it is being congested. Can you elaborate a little bit more on these challenges that it represents for the whole space economy?
Yeah, there are, as all of us know, that space economy is growing, and diverse fields are now emerging up, and many industries are coming up. As you know, I am the Vice President of International Astronautical Federation as well for international relations. I am handling the portfolio of international relations in IAF, and we have agenda for the 3-year agenda. It's called the SIS agenda, put forward by IAF President Claire Mori. And this SIS agenda, basically sustainability is very important. Sustainability, SIS means sustainability, investment and security. So for space activities, how to promote investment. And we know that many bigger industries are putting up pumping lot of money into the space field, and also even small companies like startups also coming up. And the number of industries coming up in this field worldwide is last 2 years, it is enormous. It's a very big jump we can see there. Then space sustainability, how it affects space economy. You know, any tragedy or critical close approaches or collisions in the space, it will have a very bad effect on our space economy and space utility as such. So it is necessary that all space industries, all space faring nations or aspiring nations or emerging nations, we call emerging nations, aspiring nations, all these agencies or private industries, they should follow sustainability guidelines, and it should be a prime focus should be there. Yes, there are many factors affecting the space economy. One of the factors is keeping the space for safe utility for humankind. So that's what I think.
Perfect. Julian, many times when I discuss sometimes with startups or new companies, they mention about sustainability to be one of the least problems because they need to raise capital, they need to handle other problems. How does iSpace see this as part of their strategy to develop their missions?
That's a good question, thank you. So we don't quite yet have the congestion problem on the moon, but we're very well aware that if you do the energy calculations, people could ask, why are we doing this? Why are we spending all this effort, all this energy, sending robots and cargo to the moon? Until now, the answer has been for science and exploration, knowledge of humankind. We believe now, added to this, there's a commercial activity component, and our long-term vision is utilization of in situ resources. The moon has a lot to offer, and we really believe that in the near future we'll be able to achieve an almost like circular economy on the moon. So reducing the amount of energy needed from Earth in order to achieve our ambitions on the moon. That's a little in the future. In between now and then, yes, it's not clear what iSpace or other new space companies are involved in lunar exploration can do to address the sustainability challenges. What we do very concretely, we picked our office location next to the train station for public access of our employees. We track our waste when we do rover production, so we know exactly how much waste we're producing. And I think those small things add up and are very important, to make that bridge.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to jump a little bit more about the sustainability aspect. It's being very congested into space, especially with the new constellations coming and everything. How is India trying to address this, and how is they making their part? And I think this is something of a big challenge that you are tackling.
Yeah. Yeah, as we know, now our space is very congested, contested, and competitive, right? For that, these three C's, that is congestion, competitiveness, and contested, we have to have three other C's, coordinate, cooperate, and contribute internationally. So if we coordinate and cooperate internationally, collaborate, and then contribute to space, I think at some level with sustainability is possible. Now you see, in space, especially low Earth orbit is so much congested because of the large constellations coming up in 500 to 700 kilometer orbit. The flux density in that area has grown such that anytime we can expect critical close approaches. And for India, actually there are about 55 satellites, operational satellites, and out of that about 22 are low Earth orbit, which are used for Earth observations, disaster management, climate analysis studies. Like that, many 22 low Earth orbits are there. Or there are about 30 and above geo orbits are there, which are used for communications, and now like including the NAVIX, navigation systems, regional navigation satellites. So it is necessary for us for geo, because the longitudinal slots are allotted by ITU, and we are making sure that the neighboring objects are not coming nearby our slots or our satellites, but there are still lot of debris objects are coming up, crossing our orbital bands. That threat is not so high, but for low Earth orbit, if you see, the threat is so high that last year, we have done about 21 collision avoidance maneuvers. See, when we do collision avoidance maneuvers, means it is again economy is getting affected. Life of the satellite is coming down because we use fuel, and a lot of efforts we have to put for collision avoidance maneuvers, designing maneuvers, executing it, and coordinating with others. A lot of efforts we have to put up. So that is the one area where we put a lot of efforts. Last year, one ISRO system for safe and sustainable space operations management was established in India, which takes care of all the 55 satellites space flight safety. Now, considering the sustainability guidelines by LTS or UN guidelines, as you know, UN has put forward a debris mitigation guidelines. As far as ISRO is concerned, we are complying with all the guidelines. And recently, one of the guidelines which we couldn't do much was low Earth orbit's post-mission disposal. But now, last year we have done one of our satellite after its end of operational life is over. It's called Megatropics. We have done a controlled re-entry of Megatropics as a PMD option. And it's perfectly, we could predict it where it will land. It is in a deep specific ocean with a continuous 22 orbital maneuvers. It has gone to the predicted impact point. It's a very huge success, Megatropics re-entry. Then these rocket bodies as well as rocket bodies are concerned, we do passivation for all of our rocket bodies after a satellite is getting injected into the orbit, whether it is a PSLV rocket body or cryogenic stage for LVM-3. We do passivate all the fuel to avoid any future breakups. And also, last PSLV rocket body, after injecting satellite into about 560 kilometer orbit, this PSLV rocket body was actively deorbited to 300 kilometer, so that its life is less than 6 months rather than about 25 years. So this process we are now getting regularized for all our rocket launches. So that way, India is putting a lot of efforts for sustainability of the outer space. And as you know that Indian representative is the chairman for LTS working group, in which 21 guidelines are already approved and getting implemented across the globe. And Dr. R. Uma Maheshan is the UN COPUS LTS working group chair. So, and we do a lot of outreach programs for our private industries who are coming up in this area to see that they are taking up all these guidelines very seriously and implementing in their projects. So last year, January, we have done one international conference especially for these people on SSA and STM. And also we go to academics. For students, we do workshops on these aspects. And now, you know, last week we had a UNIAF workshop. There also we had many talks on sustainability from IAF. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think being a national agency helps a lot with international cooperations. You get also a very big network of support, and this is great, right? And I think this is a big challenge that new space companies don't have, right? So how do you deploy the communications? How are you able to kind of like build all the bridges that you need as a new space company to be able to sustain operations on the moon or like communication to the moon?
So on the communication aspect, interestingly, we're the first commercial customer for ESA. Our first mission, which launched last year, our mission launching next year, will use the ground antennas from ESOC, S-Track. And I believe we're the first commercial company to have a commercial contract with ESA for the use of those ground segments. And I think that model applies across everything we do at iSpace on the engineering side. As I said, we only started 5-6 years ago. So we limited our in-house developments, really focused on our key value added, and then leverage strategic partnerships with ESA for the ground segment, with ArianeGroup for the propulsion and AIT facilities, with Draper Labs for the guidance navigation software. And that's how we were able to accelerate development and also have a spacecraft again that really worked really well. Going forward, what's interesting is now 5 years later, there's a lot more options, especially in the ground segment aspect. We see a lot of companies establish new ones, Swedish Space Corporation, KSAT, really positioning themselves in providing commercial networks for lunar operators. So that to me is a great sign when you see established companies and new companies establishing themselves, downstream of where you're operating. That means we're all convinced of the bright future we have ahead of us.
Perfect, great. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, actually, considering the new companies coming up in the space regime, one area is so much infrastructure development is required, or the more fundings are required, especially launch vehicle or satellite or space object observation facilities and ground infrastructure. And other area where the less funding with more profitability is the space data. This huge volume of data available from many satellite missions. So if we can put a lot of efforts in that space data analysis, sharing data, and data products, we have to make the necessary data products for humanities. In fact, many national agencies will be requiring it. Many nations will be requiring the data. And in almost all areas of our human life, space data has its effect. So that is the one area where more of the industries can put efforts and with less investment bring up more results. Yes, other things like satellite industry or launch vehicle industry or infrastructure development, it requires a lot of funding, yes, a lot of efforts, and latency also more. So it requires more years to get a breakthrough. Okay, so that is the one area, and the challenges are many for infrastructure development and rocket building. Rocket is a very notorious case of getting success. Even small mistakes can create into problem, lead into difficult situations. So that is what.
Perfect, thank you. Before I jump to the next question, I want to remind the audience that if you got any questions, we got the QR code behind and you can submit a couple of questions. We still got around 15, 16 minutes of presentation, so we can just spice the conversation a little bit. I'm going to talk about the future. What is the upcoming challenges that you're seeing from both iSpace and ISRO, right? I think that landing on the moon for ISRO has been already achieved, but you get a lot of plans there. And iSpace, I think this will be done very soon, right?
Yeah, so maybe to spice things up, also I have a question for you coming up after I answer your question. So being, in Europe, in Luxembourg, our goal, in addition to the technology development of rover products and all this stuff, is really to make it possible for the European community, scientists, entrepreneurs, to be active on the moon. We're seeing a lot of activity worldwide, a lot of success. And as a European, I'm concerned that with the allocation of budget that took place at the last ministerial, in order, development to ensure sovereign access to the lunar surface with Argonaut and participation in the Lunar Gateway, there's nothing left for the next 10, 15 years for commercial, activities, which means that for the next 10, 15 years, maybe the only lunar participation for Europe will be Prospect on a NASA Eclipse mission, and maybe one more of those Eclipse mission. And 10 years is a very long time. If you look back 10 years from now, there was no such panel. So in 10 years from now, we could be really, really far ahead. India, China, US, Australia, Japan, UAE, Canada. And so I worry for Europe and ESA and all our scientists and all our entrepreneurs who are as excited as we are in participating in this huge momentum and seeing that that enthusiasm is not maybe shared by European governments, and as a result, ESA is not able to act on this. So that's my personal challenge. As I mentioned earlier, the mindset, this failure mindset, we need to overcome. I think UAE, the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, should serve as a great example for other agencies to follow. They also have this very much new space mindset. In the span of like 5 years, they did a rover development from scratch. They have a team that's really, really impressive. They're doing it again. Established agencies like ISRO also have shown that failure is part of the process, and on the second try it can be very successful. So that's the challenge I see. As iSpace, we're one of the few lunar players, real lunar planners in Europe. So that's our role. Our contribution is to challenge status quo on this. It's not easy, and maybe as head of strategy for ESA, if we have time, I'd be curious to hear, what is the reflection there about diversifying the portfolio so that, yes, Europe has sovereign access with Argonaut, but not at the cost of being inactive for 15 years.
Thank you. I will reply to you, but I'd like Dr. Anil to start first.
Yeah. Yeah. Answer to your question regarding the future challenges, what we envisage. There are many things, but maybe depending on the nation and the industry or the agencies, the challenges will be different depending upon the political and financial and also the procedures, policies and procedures. See, even we face many problems in purchase-related activities, internationally, global tenders. All those things are depending upon each industries. But globally, if you see, now we know that many nations have renewed interest in lunar and extra other planets, interplanetary missions, and habitats in Mars habitats, lunar habitats. People are talking about that. Maybe future will be like that, space tourism. The challenges comes from basically from any of the country, the funding. So huge funding is required for such projects like lunar habitats or Mars habitat or Venus missions, any type of things, asteroid missions, planetary defense, another thing. I don't think that any country, they can themselves, one country alone can do all those things, or one agency can do it. So international cooperation and collaboration and funding, shared funding, all those things are required to progress in the space activities. That is the one biggest challenge. And because of many political situations and geographical situations, coming together also is difficult, consensus. So, but we have to have, like I said earlier, coordinate, cooperate, and contribute in the space. Otherwise, it will be a very difficult process to achieve all the prospects in the space for humankind. Other challenge already I said, sustainability of space, it is going to become a very big issue unless we do something like Kessler suggested in 1978. It is going to become space is going to become unsustainable, and collisions can happen, chain of collisions can happen, and later we will not able to utilize our Earth orbits for the utility of humankind. So that is the biggest challenge we are going to face. Funding is the another challenge we are going to face. Yes, technological developments, that advance in which technology is getting developed. So that is adapting to that technology by private industries. Artificial intelligence is coming up. So how to utilize it properly so that it can become a cost-effective solution for any space application, so that we can serve the humanity in a better way.
Thank you. I think you're mentioning sustainability of space, and this is very interesting because we always think of space as infinite, right? It is infinite. So when we think about being saturated and full, it's difficult for our mind to grab it. So we need to find a way. No, I didn't jump away from my question. So, so this is a panel where the moderator gets interviewed by the people here. So
Spice things up.
yeah, to spice things up. So a little bit about ESA. Yes, we're trying to change it. You saw when we get our Director General joined, he presented Agenda 2025, and it's a vision of how Europe can move forward. We have a couple of challenges to tackle. One of them, it is ESA transformation. We're working on that. This whole year has been a lot of internal work because we cannot support the ecosystem, we cannot change things if we don't know how to do it internally, right? So this is a big challenge that we're doing internally to be able to provide more to the startups. You also saw what happened with Revolution Space. It's a document that we presented about the ambitions of Europe and how we can push it. This helped us kickstart a discussion, a talk, and this is something that has become more and more prominent in the space community in Europe. So we're working on that, and you're talking also about funding. I want to remind you that we got a couple of programs being funded, but we have, for example, the commercialization directorate was created not a few years ago to be able to do this. And what we're trying to do is provide all of the tools and revolutionize how we do business here in Europe, how we can support the companies. And it's going to be a process, and we're trying to move as fast as we can to be able to support.
Thank you for taking the question.
No, thank you. I will jump on. We got 10 more minutes, so I have a couple of questions from the audience. So let me go ahead. And number one, it is Julian. When are you going to start providing commercial services, and how many rides per year are you going to provide to your customers?
Okay, thank you for the question. So commercial services started already last year. As I mentioned on our M1 mission, we had 4 private companies, NGK and TK testing a battery, a solid-state battery on the moon, 3 Canadian companies testing various sensors and data analytics on board. So these are private customers, but we also had institutional customers, still commercial contracts, MBRC, so Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, and JAXA. And our second mission launching next year, as I mentioned, is only private companies. So, the era of commercial lunar exploration has started already, and we're very happy to be the pioneers in that, because we're not the first privately funded entity to have launched. That was SpaceIL, and they had also, I think they went as far as we did, and it was a great success in 2019. What we did is we did this with commercial customers, and again, that's the main difference we're bringing here is this commercial mindset. In terms of frequency, so as we discussed, we're going to launch every 2 years right now, and our next launch will be in 2026. So yes, we're on a 2-year cadence at this stage, aiming for once a year, then twice a year.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Anil Kumar, are you planning to develop publicly available commercial SSA service based on the data catalog provided by the telescopes that you're deploying?
Can you just once more question?
Sorry?
Once more question, please.
Yes. Are you planning to develop publicly available commercial SSA services based on the data catalog that you're deploying?
Yeah. As of now, as far as India is concerned, SSA services are not available publicly. Basically, one reason, we don't have much observation facilities. We have one multi-object tracking radar, which can track about 10 objects at a time, but it can track only large objects of like rocket bodies and satellites, not fragments. So that data is available in ISRO, but not published outside. But we are planning to have one Netra project, which will be setting up many radars and optical telescopes, and we plan to have a collaboration with other spacefaring nations in space object tracking and this one, and we will be sharing. Surely, we cannot go out of that today's consensus among the spacefaring nations that data has to be shared. Then only we can manage the space flight safety. We are sharing our, not publicly, but whenever a collision or conjunction is observed, we are sharing our operational ephemeris with the other agencies, making sure that it is not leading to a collision. But I hope that within few years, our data will be available for public for any SSA services.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And also adding to that, we are offering, as I said, Indian space arena is already open to public, private industries, and we are supporting them, even sharing the data for them for SSA purposes.
Thank you. I have a very interesting question here. I'll rephrase it a little bit, but it's talking about the hype of commercialization in space and how the job market has taken a shift. It has been having freezes, layoff. So how has been for both of you, how has been the talent acquisition? Do you see this is something that will become a challenge in the coming years? Is it already a challenge? And how do you plan to overcome it?
Yeah, it's actually it's not that much challenge. See, we have a lot of talents in India, and we are trying to bring up human resources for taking over all these challenges, and also we are planning to have many infrastructure developments to come out from these aspects.
That's a very good question. Thank you. So one of the unique things about iSpace also is from the very beginning, the staff has been very multicultural, multinational. Today, I believe across iSpace we have 28 nationalities. In Luxembourg alone, where we're maybe 30, 35, I think we have 23 nationalities. And so yes, recruiting is a challenge, more and more of a challenge. I think this is positive because it means the new space sector is growing and very active. So it's the best time to be a space engineer or space business developer. But I'm also very excited because the international aspect is one defining characteristic of iSpace. We're the largest junior company with offices on 3 continents. We had, again, customers from the UAE, Canada, JAXA, so international customers, but also our staff is very international, which means now, if you're a young engineer in Brazil, you have a chance to work for a lunar exploration company. And we're trying to, make these opportunities available to the maximum number of, talented people.
Thank you. There's one more question that I thought it was very interesting. We only had 4 minutes, so I will close with that. What might be the biggest difference between challenges for established space players like agencies and emerging startups?
I think the reason why we're moving fast, and I think, breaking ground in many ways is because we know we have a huge challenge ahead of us and only a limited amount of time to prove we're right. Prove by action is one of our core values. So we just go for it, and then, we don't talk a lot at iSpace. I think communication-wise we could do better, but we prove by action. We just do it. And, going back to finances business, we only have a short amount of time to show that we can do this, it's sustainable, our customer base is growing, our finances are growing, and that's a challenge I think that is unique to the industry sector, and in particular to the new space sector, which still has to prove itself, prove its business, and prove that we're financially sound.
Yeah, I can add up that. Regarding the emerging countries and the support from the already existing capabilities of the nations, challenges comes in the way of many barriers, geographical barriers, cultural barriers, financial, economical barriers. But still, I hope that now the scenario has already changed, and to support the emerging countries and aspiring nations as well. Many new projects are coming up. International organizations like IAF or UNOSA, they are all taking many new steps to make sure that emerging countries are coming up in this field, and many private industries is coming up from the emerging nations. Basically, we can see, especially in the satellite industries. So, basically, there are challenges in coordinating with them, cooperating with them, and contributing. But it is slowly coming about the barriers. We are just crossing it. That's what I think.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both of you. This has been a really interesting conversation. Please, everybody, give them a big round of applause. And thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.